this one here, thou hast been faithful in a few things, be thou over 10 cities. Be thou over 5 cities. And that's going to go right on out into all of eternity that way. Oh, be thou over 10 planets. Be thou over 5 planets. That's the amazing privilege that the redeemed have in the family of God. That's an amazing thing right there. All right, chapter 3. We'll get started there. Verses 1 through 6. Now we're moving into the next time frame here, which is Sardis. Sardis meaning the red ones. Red having to do with the blood that these folks get to shed for Jesus Christ. Verses 1 through 6 in chapter 3. And unto the angel of the church in Sardis write, These things saith he that has the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know thy works, that thou hast a name, that thou livest, and art dead. Be watchful, and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember therefore how thou hast received, and heard, and hold fast, and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. Thou hast a few names, even in Sardis, which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Now this time frame picks up from 1000 AD to about 1500 AD. This time frame is a lot of times referred to as the Middle Ages or the medieval period in European history. Okay, now significant things that are marked in this period is the Holy Roman Empire comes to power. Okay, the Holy Roman Empire is ruled by an emperor who is ruled by the Pope, the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, you have, this time frame right here is the Roman Catholic Church at its absolute height of power.
If I go into a Catholic church and I hold up our Bible and say, show me where the Pope is in here, what are they going to say to me?
They'll probably try to blow you off, for starters. You know?
I figured that was the answer.
You might have one or two that will try. There's some young, I assume he's a friar or a monk, that's out there now on YouTube, whose job is to try to, countermand all the, but he's full of the same baloney that they've been using for hundreds of years. But what's important here is, okay, at the absolute height of their power, where they are literally controlling the known civilized world, let's look at their behavior. Okay, so what do we see in this time frame? Okay, the Inquisition. Okay, the Inquisition. The Inquisition was there to root out and murder not only Bible-believing Christians, but Jews. You have wars being carried out in the name of the Roman Catholic Church, in the name of the Queen of Heaven. You've got your Crusades, them trying to take back the Middle East because it's holy. God says that it's Sodom and Egypt. Let the Muslims have it. But you also have, if you study the history of Europe in this time frame, is you have wars being carried out by the kings that are part of that Holy Roman Empire under the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and they are waging war on Christians in Europe. It might be a group of people, it might be a village, it might be a kingdom where Christians have become, and that kingdom is refusing to bow down to the teachings and the authority of these things that are happening here. But all throughout that, and again, as we go through in detail, studying the history of the New Testament church, I'll touch on this because, again, what we're going to look at the history of the New Testament church here, where we're going to be really focusing on this time that we go through it, is on the persecution that occurs to the church in these different time frames. Now, in this time frame, as you get towards the end of it here, you start seeing the beginnings of a spiritual awakening here, which is going to lead to very severe persecution, but is what is going to eventually result in what is known as the Reformation and the Protestant churches. Okay, Protestant means that they're protesting against the things of Rome. So these are not your, what I refer to as direct lineage Bible-believing Christians, but these are people who come to believe the Bible that come out of the Church of Rome. Now, sadly, the vast majority of those have returned back to the Church of Rome now in our times. But those are the things that we're going to see happening in that time frame. And notice he says, "Thou hast a name that thou livest and art dead." I mean, this is the time where you're having huge Gothic basilicas and churches. What's the one in France there that burnt there just recently? Can't think of the name of it. There in Paris. But you think you've got stuff like, I mean, they are pouring billions in today's dollars worth of money into, all this glitz and glamour. I mean, the popes are, they are living incredible lives of wealth and luxury and avarice. Believe me, there isn't anybody today that you could think of that is a worse. You look at some of the leaders in the world today and talk about how terrible they are. That, believe me, they were something else. And they still are today, as far as I'm concerned. But that's why he says, "Thou hast a name that thou livest." You look at it and it's like, yeah, look at this massive. They are in charge of everything. And you're dead as a doornail, man. That it's absolute height of power. Revelation 17, verse 1 and 2, first two verses there. "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." And then, of course, it goes on to describe that great whore and who they are. And you've got holy wars going on here, as they call them, where they're literally killing Bible-believing Christians, and they're doing so again in the name of the Mother of Christ, Holy Mary. It's just unbelievable when you dig into history. And the problem is, and I'm not talking about anything that comes out of here, even history. You read any history, it's there. The Church of Rome can't get around it. What they count on is the ignorance of people or duping people into believing that, oh yes, those were terrible things that happened then. We regret those kinds of things, which is nothing but a great big stinking lie. Because like I say, they haven't rescinded any of the incitement orders that were put out, or papal bulls, that's a great name for them, that went out in relation to these. And so what little bit of real Christianity still remains at this time within the church is so incredibly overshadowed by the satanic heresy of the Roman Catholic Church that, it's all but dead. It's just, there's nothing there. You've got a few people within there that have a little bit of a grasp of truth. You've got some real Christians, of course, they're not part of the Church of Rome, but because they're being persecuted so heavily and they're having to stay under so much, but something starts getting through to some people. And eventually you're going to have, people like John Knox, and you're going to have Martin Luther that start coming up in the next period, and these are all going to result in the Reformation period. But I'll tell you, what you got going on right now, things like the monastic orders going on, people shutting themselves off from the world. Those are probably where some of the real Christians within the Church of Rome are, is they're hiding in these places, but they're nothing but a bunch of self-righteous, egotistical, formalistic posers. That's all they are. You've got, like I say, a handful of Christians who he says are worthy, of white robes in there, and he says that they're going to be, robed in white because they're worthy and they're just. He says that they will not have their name blotted out of the book. The book of life has every name of every human being that ever has been, is now, or will be born. The potential is there because again, God never intended for any human being to die and go to hell. Okay? It's not that your name gets written into it. Your name's there. If you're found to be unrighteous, your name gets blotted out of the book of life. And he says that he will confess their names before the Father and before the angels that are in heaven. So we'll stop there with that this morning. We have 2 left to cover on the introductory lessons here on the history of the New Testament church, and that is going to be Philadelphia and Laodicea. So we will stop there for this morning, and we will take some prayer requests.